Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. Today, we're going to be talking about agility tuning. It's a little bit more of an advanced strategy, but it is quite essential for a lot of PvE, PvP, and match battle content. Now, for a lot of people, agility tuning is pretty easy, pretty intuitive. And if you don't know what it is, it's basically using agility to dictate how your units take their turns in relation to the other units on your team and in relation to the boss. This is most commonly done through equipment, espers, VCs, and passive abilities. This is really important because this could also be the difference between you being able to solo content in the future with the right units or you being not able to solo that content. A great example of this was in the most recent two-headed dragon raid, where you would see a lot of people running Kayn formations. And it didn't only apply to Kayn in this situation. Any unit that you were 4x-unit multiing with, right, had to make their initial movement before the two-headed dragon so that they would utilize bells, right? Sometimes you would be able to turn off certain abilities so that you could get your unit to use bells, but the most common and best way to do this was to have Kayn act before the two-headed dragon moved. This was predominantly for 2 slots in the party, but it was so essential that if you were in one of those slots, that you were able to have your bells go off before the two-headed dragon initially moved. Otherwise, you would have to manual those bells yourself. This is an example of one strategy. There are plenty in this game that require you to have agility tuning, right? You see a lot of this come out in raid time when a lot of players are either not agility tuned perfectly or they're off by just a bit, or even you see it in pretty casual play when players are raiding or doing content where they haven't agility tuned optimized their party. So what might this look like if a party is not optimized? And it's probably something you don't think about on an average basis. An example of this would be if you're running a dark/composition. And if you were, say, doing the last Final Fantasy XIV raid, if you have your Ruinstern going after Venera's limit break, just adding a little bit of agility to that Ruinstern to use double attack at cap damage before Venera is going to add a modifier to Venera's limit break that is very powerful, because you're basically getting extra chains in before a multi-hit ability, right? And it's going to add more total damage to what you can do. So if you can imagine having that effect throughout the whole party, right? Suddenly, Venera is always going to be acting after Ruinstern. Suddenly, Ruinstern, who always caps damage, is going to give Venera the ability to either do more damage or to hit damage cap as well. It kind of has a cascading effect, and it can make your team extremely powerful. So how do you do this? Of course, VCs is the primary method, right? And we're of course going to be talking about Scion, which I do not have. We're going to talk about the Black Rose Helena and Chocobo cards. These cards are pretty basic, right? Pretty intuitive. These are the cards you're thinking of. Other cards people don't think about that are actually really important. Fenrir actually has agility +4 on him. Dashing over a snowy field, right? If you're running Kayn, for example, this has a limited bestowed effect of agility +5%. Kayn being a really slow unit, this could be a really good card instead of running potentially Demon Wall, right? To both modify his agility, modify his damage, and also make him act in a certain way. Secret Orders, agility up 10% is massive. This is a great way if you're trying to control, your unit's abilities. This could be great on like Shadow Lynx, for example, or Venera. Depending on what your party is, if you can agility tune as much as you want, right? Like if you're in a slash comp and you need to have this to agility tune, take Moraga out. You might not need Moraga if you can agility tune accurately, or run both, because the agility might be more important to you than other stats. We also have some other cards which see less use, but we do have the Chivalrous Outlaws, which gives a single unit agility up. We do have the Mobius of Hope and Illusion, which gives ice resistance and agility up. Of course, Cactar gives agility up. Behemoth, which a lot of people don't know, also gives agility up. You know, and the funny thing is, I always thought Behemoth gave agility down, but I guess he gives agility up. Bloody Moon does give agility down, so if you need to take your agility down a notch, viable card, absolutely viable card to have leveled and to use. Same with the Gluttonous is King. I think a lot of the times, though, you're not going to be utilizing those cards. You're going to be utilizing cards like Fenrir. You're going to be utilizing cards like Glaciela's card. Now, one of the more underrated aspects of agility tuning, I personally think, is espers. And I think a lot of people don't sort their espers by agility. I think a lot of people also don't look at the agility that can carry over to their units, right? I think if you ask people what's the fastest esper in the game, a lot of people aren't going to know that the answer is Odin. I think a lot of people will probably guess that Shiva is the fastest magic esper in the game because they pretty much know that, right? Like that's pretty common knowledge. Like you can see out of the top 10 espers here that I have leveled, Diablos and Rama are further in the back for magic. That's pretty common knowledge for magic users. However, a lot of people might not know. Red Chocobo is up here at 16, same with Tetrasulfid and Siren, same with Behemoth, and all of these varying agility levels are important, and having a variety of resonance with your team that you're using is critical in order to make use of agility tuning your team. You can already see how easy it would be if, let's say, you needed Ruinstern to act before Venera, because that's an example that, you know, is pretty easy to put out there. If Venera had Odin on, I could just swap Behemoth onto Venera, right? She's still going to get the slash attack bonus. She's a little bit slower, but she's still going to be pretty strong. Maybe I could put Odin instead of, I don't know, Fenrir. I don't know why Fenrir's on Ruinstern, but maybe that's the only thing you had resonance with. I don't know. But you could throw Odin on Ruinstern, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, this is great. This works. So there's a lot of little things you can do with Esper resonance that I think a lot of people overlook. And I see you out there, the people out there who are skipping their Esper resonance when they are doing other content. You need to have a resonance skip ticket farming party. I see you. Make sure you have that. Equipment, of course, is the final way. And I think any equipment with agility on it, absolutely viable. I think you need to have agility equipment. I think for a lot of people, agility equipment in the equipment slot is literally just like, oh, it's +5 agility, right? But I don't think a lot of people realize, like, Bewitching Boots, for example, is +7 agility, as opposed to, you know, something else you might put there, like Bewitching Heels, right? You're probably using that accessory for the agility. You might be using it for the ability, I could see that, but that difference in agility could be important. Boxer's Badge, +3 agility. Pretty reasonable piece of gear. You know, it's only +3 agility, but maybe you need to dial back a character's agility, but you don't want to hurt them too much. There's a lot to put together here. And, you know, when you have all of this happening at once, it can be really hard to piece together what the small piece you need to make in your formation is, right? What's that small change? What's that, you know, how on earth is 2 agility going to completely change how you're able to solo, right? That's absolutely possible. So I think this is one of the best parts of the game, is when you're trying to figure out a solo composition and you're trying to figure out how to make your units act in a certain order. Of course, there's the aspect of turning abilities on and off, but I think agility tuning is just as important, right? If you want a certain unit to move first to kill the ad so that the other unit will pop, you know, bells instead of going and killing the ad. Great example of when that might be viable, right? That might be the difference between being able to reliably solo a brutal story mission and not being able to reliably solo it, right? We're going to be seeing a lot more brutal missions here in the future. In the most recent brutal mission with Skull, where you had the 5 humans off to the left side, being able to give Sid enough agility to move and hallowed bolt them made the difference between being able to clear that in like 1 minute as opposed to 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? It stopped my units from flying over to the left side because my Sid was moving before them and killing those human units, and it changed my allies' positioning to aim towards the other side of the opponent. So just another example of how this can really help you. If you are struggling with this, or if this is something that is new to you, everybody pretty much struggles with it. I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, look at my great formation, I'm so good. You know what? They probably spent, you know, just as much time, 2 or 3 hours, you know, toning that group, making it perfect, and they're just proud of it. They're not like some god tier gamer who did it in like 10 seconds. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you do want to support me, make sure you use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins, or you can go to dig.gs/offer. And as always, everyone, I hope you guys are going to come and see me on stream tonight. I will be streaming between 5 and 8 p.m. Pacific time, and have a great rest of your day.